All right, today we are looking at 6.6, discussing parallel lines with a transversal. Guarantee you guys are going to see this quite a bit in high school. Okay, they do kind of like a big unit on it, and then they start talking about angle measures and congruencies. So definitely going to see this in the future. Now, parallel lines, as we know, are pretty much just two lines that will never intersect. They will never cross no matter what. They'll go on forever in both directions, but they'll never touch. So that's what it means to be parallel. And when they give you your like little letters right here and right here, they're simply saying that that is line P and that this is line Q. That's how you can distinguish which line is which. All right. Now, from that, we start getting into what are congruent angles. Congruent angles, we've seen this a little bit with our vertical angles. Congruent angles is kind of a fancy way of saying in geometry that they are the exact same angle measure. It's like an equal sign just for angles. Okay. And then when you have two parallel lines, which is indicated right here and here, two parallel lines, cut or sliced by a transversal. Now, this transversal can be sliced in a number of different ways, but in the end, all these properties are still going to like hold true. Okay. So if you have a transversal going that way, then you're going to get a lot of congruent angles from that. Okay. You may see a different situation where I have two parallel lines and the transversal just might go that way. Okay. But all the properties are still going to be the same. All right. In the end, you still have two parallel lines with a transversal. All right. Now, this is going to give us one of our first angle types, which are corresponding angles. So corresponding angles, this is where they kind of have the same spot. Usually when I'm teaching this, I say to my guys, you have one on the inside, one on the outside, but they have that same angle measure. So when we're talking about corresponding angles in that same place, an example would be like this one right here. Notice how that's on the inside of the parallel lines. And this one right here. Notice how that's on the outside of the parallel lines. But looking at those, even just visually, they look like they have the exact same angle measure. So for example, if this one were to say 140 degrees, by default, because they're corresponding angles with these two parallel lines and that transversal slicing through, this must also be 140 degrees. Okay, that's what it means to be corresponding. And now that's not the only pair that you actually see those corresponding. Okay, and that's what this definition pretty much starts to get into. You notice a bunch of different corresponding angles having the exact same angle measure. Okay. And usually for students from year to year, they don't have much of an issue on this just because visually they can like see it. They can see that they should match. All right. So for example, this one on the X and this one on the X, those are corresponding angles. One's on the inside of the two parallel lines, one's on the outside, and they kind of have that same position, that same place on the transversal. They could be on this side and this side. Notice one's on the inside of the parallel lines though. And one is on the outside of the parallel lines, but they kind of fit that same position. Again, just another example, same position, same angle measure. One's on the inside, one's on the outside. Z, this one, is considered to be the inside one. This guy would be considered the outside one. And then finally, this W right here. Those are corresponding angles. You will work with these quite a bit in high school, just FYI. Now, let's say if I was to give you two parallel lines. So go ahead and jot this on the side. Two parallel lines. And then we are slicing with a transversal. So we're going through here. And then what I want you guys to do is to try, if I were to say that this is 60 degrees right there, where should your corresponding angle be there? Go ahead, pause the video, try it out. Where should that corresponding angle become? Excellent job to that student. That is where it is. So we have 60 degrees there. Okay. I'll see another one. So if I gave you these two parallel lines, and we'll draw another mini one. So if we have these two parallel lines, and then we are slicing with a transversal. In other words, you just have a line going through both of them. And we say this is 130 degrees right here. Where would that corresponding angle end up being? Go ahead, pause the video, try and figure out. Actually, that wouldn't be 130. That's an acute angle. So let's say, yeah, we'll go with 75. If that is 75 degrees, where else should you see 75 degrees? Go ahead, pause the video, give it a shot. Awesome job to that individual. Yep, it was said top right there. So that would also be our corresponding angle, 75 degrees. Okay. So fantastic job to those individuals. All right. Now moving on, we're going to go ahead and use this to kind of figure out some of our angle measures and then use that information to find some other ones. So example 1, we're asked find the measure of angle B. Here we go. We got a corresponding angle. Go ahead, try that one out. Very similar to the ones we just saw. Awesome job to those people. We got B to be 114 degrees. These are corresponding angles. Angle B in that 114, so that's why they're going to be congruent. They're going to be the exact same angle measure. Exact same. All right, moving on to example 2. This is where they start to spice things up a little bit. Where they say, okay, now find the measure of angles 1 and 2. Well, what would you do first to figure out your angles? Go ahead, pause the video, think about it. Awesome job to those individuals walking us through it. Because angle 1 is a corresponding angle, this must also be 110 degrees. Again, one's on the inside of the parallel lines, one's on the outside, and they're in that same position type. Then we had another student say, well, they can see that these two angles will combine to be 180 degrees. That's that supplementary angles that we've studied. So to set up that equation, we have the 110 plus the angle 2 should combine to give us that 180 that we need. And then it was suggested just subtract the 110 over. Cancel. Angle 2 we found to be 70 degrees. So angle 2 must be 70 degrees. Go ahead, feel free to pause the video if you have any questions at all. All right, what I would love for you guys to do now is to pause the video, try this one out. You're going to be using corresponding angles. You're going to be doing some of the previous topics that we've talked about, maybe some supplementary in there. So this one is you're definitely going to encounter in your future. All right, so give it a shot. Try and find out all the missing angles. All right, awesome job. As I was walking around, I heard some great ideas and a lot of things correct on people's papers. What I also loved, I was walking around, I saw people put like angle 1, angle 2, angle 3, and so on. So just labeling everything so neatly. I also saw them just mark it up on their figure. That's fine too. So angle 1. What is angle 1? Phenomenal job to those students. They said, well, this is 75 degrees. That guy's 75. By default, angle 1 must also be 75 degrees because they are vertical angles. So we are right away able to find angle 1. So that would be 75 degrees. Now, let's go ahead and use what we know to find out angle 2. What would angle 2 become? Awesome job to that individual. To find angle 2, they suggested we are going to do supplementary angles. Now, you can do this one of two ways to find angle 2. You could go at it like this. That would combine to be 180. And so if we did that, then we would have angle 2 plus 75 degrees is going to total that 180 degrees. In which case, we would just subtract the 75. So we've seen a lot of that in the past. Here they cancel. So angle 2 comes out to be 105 degrees when you subtract. So you could attack it like that, or you could say, maybe I thought these two are also supplementary. So maybe you worked with those to find angle 2. Lo and behold, the exact same process is going to happen, guys. You would do the exact same thing, just with a different line. That's all. All right, so we found angle 2 to be 105. Let's clean this up so it's not so crazy. We said, oh, we'll keep that. We said that angle 2 is going to be 105 degrees. Now, how do we find angle 3? Phenomenal job to that individual. We got another set of vertical angles. There in the purple is 105. Angle 3, directly across from it, is also going to be 105. So angle 3 is 105. So far we have angle 2, which was 105. Angle 3, which is also 105. And now we're going to try and dive and figure out, well, what about these other angles on the other side? We got angle 4, 5, 6, 7. This is where what comes into play. So if we know angle 1 is that 75 degrees, angle 4 must also be 75 degrees. This is where that is corresponding angles. So as a result, it's going to be 75 degrees. What I want you guys to do now is, using corresponding angles, find 5, 6, and 7. So using this side right over here, find all the other angles using corresponding on that side. Go ahead, pause the video, try that out. So angle 5 would correspond with angle 2, which we saw was 105 degrees. When we look at number 6, so again, these two were corresponding. When we look to find angle 6, we see that that is going to pair up and be corresponding with that 75. So we know he is 75. And then finally for angle 7, we see that the corresponding angle would be with angle 3. So those must also be the same angle measures. Looks like 105. So the bonus is, once you find one of these, you can really find pretty much all of them. Okay. Go ahead, feel free to pause the video if you have any questions. But there they are. What I'd love for you guys to do now is go ahead and please pause the video and do the you try. We'll come together in a moment when you are done with these, and then we'll see how we did. So go ahead, try out 1 and 2. Excellent job to those individuals. We have corresponding angles when we look at angle 1 and 63 degrees. So as a result, angle 1 is also going to be 63 degrees. And from that, we can actually find angle 2. We know that this is going to be supplementary, combining to be a total of 180. And so this is where we take angle 2 plus the 63 degrees that we know and set it equal to 180. Now from that, we can go ahead and solve. So to accomplish that, we're going to go ahead and subtract this 63 over because it has nothing to do with angle 2. Get angle 2 is all alone equals 180 minus 63. Should come out to be 117. So 117 degrees. Go ahead, feel free to pause the video if you have any questions. Now, looking at number 2, here we have a 99-degree angle, and we're trying to figure out all these other ones. Well, we know that we have supplementary angles. So we can find angle 1 first. That should in total become 180 degrees. And so as we're solving, we have 99 degrees plus angle 1 is equal to 180. So just like our other one that we just saw a moment ago. Now to solve, we would subtract the 99 over. Here they cancel. Angle 1 is by itself equals, now 180 minus 99, we should get 81. So this angle measure should be 81 degrees. Now from that, you guys can do vertical angles and corresponding. So to find angle 2, the fastest way would be vertical angles. So if that's 99, angle 2 must also be 99. For angle 3, also vertical angles. And vertical angles are congruent. So in this case, angle 3 should be the same as angle 1, which is 81 degrees. Okay. Now to find all these other 4, 5, 6, and 7, what we do have to use is corresponding. Got to use it to make that jump over to those ones. So as we're looking at 4, what we want to do is ask ourselves, which one would that be corresponding with? Just to clean this up a little bit so we can see things a little bit easier. So we have those angle measures. For corresponding, number 4 would be the same as this 99 degrees. Notice how they are in that same position. One's on the inside of the parallel lines, one's on the outside. So angle 4 is also going to be 99. Then when we go to number 5, asking ourselves, which one would that be corresponding with? So absolutely, this one is 81 degrees because it's going to be corresponding with angle 1. For angle 6, we see that that is going to correspond with angle 2, which we know is 99. So we have 99 degrees. And then finally, angle 7 should correspond with angle 3, and that is 81 degrees. So using just a lot of corresponding angles to find the other ones. Okay. Go ahead, feel free to pause the video if you have any questions at all, though. All right, so we've talked about corresponding angles. Now we're going to be shifting towards exterior angles and interior angles. And from that starts to form alternate interiors and alternate exteriors. Let's go ahead and just focus on first, what does it mean to be exterior or interior? Well, pretty much this is an awesome diagram right here where you see 2 parallel lines sliced with a transversal. Okay. Now, when we reference exterior angles, we're talking about the guys outside of your parallel lines every time. That's why they're called exterior. I mean, think about it. Think about a home. The exterior for a home would be the outside parts of a home. Whereas the interior parts are the items inside your parallel lines. So again, with that home reference, it'd be like your kitchen, your family room. Okay. So exterior, always outside two parallel lines. Inside is interior. Okay. Now, from that, we have this diagram with a bunch of different angles. So if we had to ask ourselves which ones are 1, 2, 7, and 8, notice how they're in red. What would those angles be there? What kind of angles? Awesome job to those individuals, got it correct. So noticing exteriors are 1, 2, 7, 8. Interiors are the 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Now with that, that'd be amazing if it were that sweet and easy. Then we start to mix in some other components of geometry, and we start to say, okay, what are some other angle congruences? We've studied corresponding already. Now, how does this whole interior and exterior fit in? This is where alternate interior and alternate exteriors start to also formulate same angle measures or congruent angle measures. Alternate interior. Anytime you hear that word alternate, you can immediately think opposite, okay? It's like the opposite side. And then the interior and exterior, you guys pretty much already have down. The angles on the outside versus the angles on the inside. So anytime it's referencing that alternate, just start to think opposite sides, okay? Opposite sides of the transversal. Here's a prime example. Alternate interiors. See how we have 1 and 2, right? Notice how those are on opposite sides of our transversal, our line. Right? They're not on the same side. They're on opposite sides. And then they're also on the inside of those parallel lines, right? Being the interior. As a result, anytime you have alternate interior angles, those will always be the same angle measure. So if I said angle 1 was 120 degrees, angle 2 is an alternate interior angle. It's on the opposite side of your transversal. It's on the opposite side. And it's also inside your parallel lines. So alternate interior angles, those are always going to be the same. So angle 2 would also be 120. That's why they're in red. Those are going to be the exact same. Well, then what would you be able to say about 3 and 4? Absolutely, to that individual, he said angle 3 is smaller than 90. It's an acute angle, so maybe we'll just say he's 60 degrees. Well, this is an alternate interior with angle 4. So as a result, angle 4 would also be 60 degrees. They're the exact same angle measure. So as we can tell, it says angles 1 and 2, those are alternate interior angles. And angles 3 and 4, those are also alternate interior angles. Again, alternate, opposite side of the transversal. Interior, that's where we're within and inside the parallel lines. So that's where those come about. Now, looking at alternate exterior, very, very similar, super similar. The only difference is you're on the outside of your two parallel lines. So when we look at angle 1, and if we said that this was 30 degrees right here, well, angle 1 is going to be matched up or paired with angle 2, which is an alternate exterior angle. So those are going to be congruent every time. This guy would also be 30 degrees. Okay. Go ahead, pause the video, try and determine which one 3 would be. Which one would angle 3 be paired with as an alternate exterior? Angle 3, let's say that that would be 150 degrees. Well, the alternate exterior angle that would be paired with him would be angle 4, which is also the exact same angle measure, 150 degrees. go ahead and feel free to pause the video if you have any questions at all on this part, because this is brand new. So alternate interior or alternate exteriors. Now, looking at example 4, what many teachers ask you to do is not simply give the angle measure. They also want to know what type they are, okay? So looking at 58 and looking at B, what would be the name classification for those first? Excellent job to that individual. We have 2 parallel lines. Now, by the way, how you know that they're parallel, anytime you see that little symbol there, or if it's like a little thing that says that, that's indicating parallel, okay? So we have these 2 parallel lines. Two parallel lines, and they are cut by this transversal, this line that goes through both of them. Now, when that happens, we want to first identify what kind of angle types they are. These are alternate because they're on opposite sides of the transversal, so immediately alternate. And then we're asking ourselves, are they interior or exterior? Looks like because they're on the inside of your 2 parallel lines, then those would be interiors. Okay. Now, alternate interiors are always the exact same angle measure. So as a result, because of that, angle B is 58 degrees. It's going to be the exact same. Okay. Any questions at all there? Okay. Looking at this next one. Again, we want to state the classification type. So what kind of angles are those first? Awesome job. These are alternate exteriors. So for me, you guys can just write alt. And then since they're exterior, you can do that. I'm fine with that. I'll know what you mean. Okay. Now, alternate exterior angles are always congruent, right? So if this guy is saying 104, angle B must also be 104. So angle B is 104. Okay. All right. For example 5, so we have a diagram. And then pretty much, guys, what you're doing is alternate exterior angles, alternate interior angles to find these different angle measures. And then we're going to state the classification type and then also state how many degrees it is. So we'll do the first one, A, together, just so we can kind of see it in action. It says the measure of angle 2 is 113 degrees. So as a result, on our figure, we're going to put a little 113 degrees. Then it's asking for, okay, well, what is angle 6 then? Now, those 2 angles are actually corresponding with one another, so those are corresponding angles. Right? Same side of the transversal. One's on the inside and one's on the outside. And so corresponding angles are always congruent every time. So angle 6 is equal to 113 degrees as well. So this is 113. We'll do one more together. If it says angle 4 is 100 degrees, what is angle 6? Well, angle 4 in this situation is 100 degrees. And now it's looking for angle 6 based on that information. Well, first we're asking ourselves, what kind of angles are those? What kind of angles are 4 and 6 there? Okay, so we have angle 4 and angle 6 are considered alternate interior angles. And alternate interior angles are always congruent. So as a result, they're going to be the exact same angle measure. Angle 6 is the same as angle 4, which is 100 degrees. Okay. So as you're going through, you might need to change up some of the angle measures just based on the information that they give you, right? Like we found angle 6 twice there, just in 2 different situations. So go ahead, please pause the video and try C and D. So for C, it's saying angle 1 is 84. What is angle 3? Awesome job to this individual. Angle 1 is 84, and we are trying to figure out what is angle 3. This person said that they are vertical angles with one another, and vertical angles are always congruent. So angle 3 is also going to be 84 degrees. Okay, so there's our answer for C. Angle 3 is 84 degrees because of vertical angles. Vertical angles are always congruent every time. Yes, you do need to classify the name type. So you do have to state that. Okay. Next up, it says for D, angle 7 is 75. What is the measure of angle 1? So again, this is a new question, so that's why we're erasing this part. It says angle 7 is 75 degrees. And then what is angle 1? Well, looking at these 2 angles, this individual did a great job, said that they are, in fact, alternate because they're on the opposite side of the transversal. So alternate exterior outside the parallel lines. So that's our classification type, alternate exterior angles. And alternate exterior are always the exact same angle measure. So if 7 is 75 degrees, angle 1 is 75 degrees. Go ahead, feel free to pause the video if you have any questions on the labeling or the congruence. Okay. For angle 6, it says lines P and Q are parallel. That's what that notation means. This is parallel. So anytime you see that, and you'll see it quite a bit, they just mean that they're parallel. And the measure of angle 1 is 95. So right away, this guy is 95 degrees. Then go ahead and find out all of the other angles formed by this image. So go ahead, pause the video, try them out, and find them. All right, so again, this is 95 degrees. And from that, we can do a lot of different angle types. So for example, angle 1 and 5, those would be considered alternate exterior angles, which are the exact same. So I know automatically this is going to be 95 degrees. When we look at angle 7 and angle 1, these guys are vertical angles. So as a result, this also has to be 95 degrees. Again, we're kind of still using angle 1 as like the kind of the base number to use. Looks like angle 1 and angle 3, those guys would be corresponding, which are also the same. So angle 3 is 95 degrees. And then for angle 1, we already knew it was 95. So for the others, we have something like for angle 8. Let's say we wanted to find out what is 8. This is where supplementary comes into play. So you can find angle 8 pretty quick. Comes out to be 85 degrees. So this is 85. And by default, angle 2 is a vertical angle, which is also 85. So we have 2, 85 degrees. Angle 8, 85 degrees. Now, when we look at 6 and 2, let's look at those two angles. 2 and 6 are known to be alternate interior angles, which are the same. So as a result, this is also 85. And then if we looked at 4 and 8, those would be considered alternate exterior angles, which are also the same. So for 4 and 6, those are going to be 85 degrees as well. Okay. So that is what you should have ended up with on your paper. Now, final part. We have seen supplementary. We're going to kind of create like a small list. So put this at the bottom of your paper. You have complementary. And we know that that is angles that add to 90 degrees. The next big one that we've seen is supplementary. Very, very similar. Supplementary. This is where angles add to 180 degrees. We have seen vertical angles. And vertical angles are always congruent. Okay. So vertical angles are always going to be the exact same angle measure. In other words, guys, vertical angles are congruent. Okay. We've also seen corresponding angles. Corresponding angles are congruent. We've also seen alternates. Alternate interior angles are congruent. And then finally, alternate exterior angles are congruent. So as long as you know all of those different types and distinguish them, separately, then you should be in pretty good shape.